There we are.
All right. Hey, everyone in the Speakers, Authors, and Coaches Network. This is Jake Ballentine, and I am here with Andrew Eggelton, and we are talking all about being a world-class presenter and what that means. But before we get into that, how are you doing today, Andrew?
I'm good. I'm good. As I was just saying to you, we're hitting summer now. So, man, you know what people are like. There's a little bit of an edge. There's some excitement in the air.
It's so funny how we're in a completely different side of the world. You know, we're starting to get into the winter. Things are starting to get a little colder. In some of the states, we're starting to have snow. In fact, I know a lot of the states are starting to have big snow. We're starting to have rain.
Wow.
And then, you guys here in the middle of the summer.
Do you know this business in 2000 in this era, isn't it? You know what I mean? You have clients, you're connected, we're connected all over the world. It's like, imagine going back to the old days where you predominantly did business with people in your area or your country. And now we're just at the click of our fingers of reaching out and building businesses and empires and connections and relationships all around the world. I mean, it's special times.
I mean, it's so cool. Like, and just our business, what we're in our business and this online world, it's really absolutely magical because I talk to some of my friends who have like normal jobs and I tell them things like, oh yeah, I talk to people in Australia and in England. I talk to people all over the world on a daily basis. And they're like, wait, what? Like, what do you mean? But I can't imagine it any other way.
No, I don't know how. I'm not going to ask you how old you are in front of everybody, but
I'm not embarrassed by that. You can ask me. I will be 34 in 2 weeks.
My God, Jake, you're like a spring chicken. It actually just made me feel old.
Well, I like hanging around people that say that, because it depends on the crowd I'm hanging around. Because if I'm with some people, they're going to say the opposite, and some people here. So anyway, real quick, I was kind of messing around here to make sure that we were actually on live. Now I see that we're on. I see people commenting. Hey, everyone who's watching live, please go ahead and make a comment. Let me know that you are here. But what were you going to say about that? You were asking me age and you were going to say something about it.
I was having this conversation. We're in a day and age too, where it feels like people make appointments to call you now. It feels where
I do that.
Do you? I know so many people do. And I have this thing with my clients. I say, just call me. And if I don't want to speak to you or I'm busy, I just won't answer. It's that simple, but you don't need to book time in my calendar. But we have my day is structured USA, Australasia, and Asia, and then Europe, UK. So I have these 3 different time zones that I deal in.
Is that I have never heard the word Australasia, or however you just said that. I've never heard
Australasia. That's New Zealand and Australia.
Wow, that's great. I've never heard that before. That's fascinating.
If we get nothing else out of this whole talk, that was it. One piece.
That was great. I was broadened at that moment. I love it. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Thanks everyone who is here watching. Feel free to make comments. Towards the end, we're going to open up to Q&A. What we're going to be doing is we're recording this simultaneously. We're recording this live for the Facebook group, but we're also going to be posting this on the podcast and on the YouTube channel and all those kind of things. So what we're going to be doing is any questions that come up, please ask those questions in the comment box here in the Facebook group, and we're going to address those as we get towards the end. But Andrew and I are going to have a conversation about what it means to be a world-class presenter. So in your mind, what does that mean? What is a world-class presenter?
Could I start, Jake, by setting the scene of the rite of passage of what I see as the journey of a world-class presenter?
You can set the scene and start wherever you would like.
Because when I jump straight to world-class presenting, I feel like it isolates a lot of people because many are in different stages. Some are at the beginning and the infancy, some are in the middle and might think they're at the mastery point, and then you kind of realize that there's a whole nother infinite game out there to play. I think the starting point and I like this terminology, is, you get used to, you have to be comfortable with realizing at the beginning, at first you suck.
Yeah.
And these are the times that I'm looking for opportunities, but I don't even really know what that means or where to start. This means I'm absolutely terrified, but I know I have to do it. And when you go on stage, you have those mind blanks. You lose your words. You forgot what you're talking about. You end up going down the rabbit hole talking about something that you didn't even know that you were talking about that makes no sense. And this is that at first you suck. And we've all been through it.
Yes.
We've all been through it.
And I think that we should embrace the suck. I think that's something that we should embrace, because I think a lot of people don't do because they're afraid that they're not going to be seen as good. And this is a cycle that just continues, because with that cycle, the only way to get better is through practice. And I think that you can't, something I say often is 100 practices in the mirror is equal to one time on the stage in terms of what you gain from it. You can practice it over and over and over again, but we got to embrace the suck. That's what I think anyway. We have to embrace it and say, you know what, I'm where I am and I'm okay with that. And I'm going to allow it to happen.
You really have to lower the bar on yourself. It's that position. And this takes actually a while or a few stages, where how you see it rolling out on your head, how you see yourself presenting and how it working and the audience engagement and connection just doesn't equate to what actually physically happens in reality. And that's the frustration point. It's like everything was going so well in my head, and then on stage you just lack the tools and experience to be able to hold the energy of a room of people and deliver value piece by piece by piece, moment to moment. Then the next stage after that is imitation. And this is where I know this as an actor. And now that I'm older, I can get away with saying, when I was an actor, I used to copy, this is a little bit embarrassing, but I used to copy Brad Pitt when I was in my 20s as an actor.
You know, he's a good guy to copy, you know, if you're going to copy someone, right?
But here's the thing. Brad has infinite range of being Brad. He's got Brad down pat. The only range that I then had was what I had seen to copy on screen, which was like a fraction of infinite Brad Pitt.
Yes.
So all I had was the way he spoke, the way he used his hands, the way he did things. And so my range was tiny. And so we're imitating. It's easy to get thrown off because you go, well, what would you do right now? Or can you hear that thunder? Wow.
I don't. That's pretty cool though.
That was pretty cool. It's a copy and paste. It's a copy and paste. And it's when we kind of like, it's the people who copy the Tony Robbins, the Joe Dispenzas and the D Martinis. You're copying an icon or someone who has it down pat. Then we go into this beautiful place of what I call is technical. Now, technical is the brain stuff. It is where we stand, how to use my voice better. What are my moments? What are my points? How do I take this presenting more seriously and do it properly? This is when we start taking classes and getting mentoring and going to events to really understand it. Now, most people will call being able to do the technical stuff really well mastery. And I understand that because that was me. I used to think that I was crash hot at presenting when I was working in TV and getting hired to present and hold shows. And technically, when the camera rolled or when I was in front of people, my shoulders went back, I smiled, I got rid of the jitters in my cheeks because I was nervous. I could give the performance of a presenter. It's the best way of putting it, actually. I could pretend, or it was my perception of fantasy of what a presenter looked like, I could become. I knew where to stand. I knew how to direct people. I knew the technical things very, really well, like directors, producers, TV, networks were happy that Andrew could deliver as a presenter. When I was public speaking, people were, Andrew can deliver over that time. But then I realized that there was something deeper. What was above the technical? What made the Tony, I'm just going to use Tony because he's such an obvious example, but there's a whole lot of people playing in that space. What separates them from the technical. And it is now, it's the essence of who they are, that artistry. They are coming through loud and clear. No one can copy, well, everyone tries to copy them, but no one can be them.
Yes.
The essence of who they are, their words seem to have more weight when they speak. It's into a whole nother level where you drop from technical into, oh my God, this is actually a really cool craft. And we see the actors who do this, where they go, wow, these are the Daniel Day-Lewis's, the Meryl Streeps, the craft. And there's one more spot after the artistry, and that is when you realize the penny drops. This happened for me last year, where I realized I actually know nothing anymore. And that this whole art, this whole craft of presenting is infinite. And it's where we can take it, how far we can take the essence of us, our value, what it is that we teach, and package that up as entertainment and information, and take people on this beautiful journey.
What a beautiful way to say all that. I mean, that's fantastic. And I can think about myself being on many of those stages. You know, I know, and I can think about other people. It's so interesting how many people, and myself for such a long time, was focused on copying what other people did, and focused, you know, seeing other people copying. And I see it as one of the biggest things. Everyone's trying to be someone else. And I really like what you said there about how then your range is only at the level of what you've seen them do. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you know, when you get to that artistry level and that world-class level, you know, mentioning Tony, I just think about, you know, the times that I've seen him in person, and he can take the smallest little story, and he can unpack a layer and another layer and another layer and another layer. And 90 minutes later, you're still talking about something that he could have said in 5 minutes, but yet you don't care because you've learned something from every detail of this story. And he says it in such a way that it's like you remember all of the details. You remember all of these things because it's like the way he speaks is literally, and not literally, figuratively, it's an artist on a canvas. It's really, really incredible how someone can take stories and just augment them to a level to bring out so much.
He stepped into that place of absolute mastery.
Yes.
Do you know? And that's the part that spins my wheels. That when people talk about mastery, and often people ask me, why world class? You know, why choose to master this craft? Is because when you do, you take luck out of the equation. You don't need to look for opportunities when you're in that space, because they come to you, or as a byproduct of you being that damn good, and bone deep confidence in what it is you're an authority in. You're creating your own opportunities. You know, other people's stages then become like a shout. Will I? Won't I? You know, I can, but is that really my ideal audience? Do I really want to go and do that? Because your calendar is full of you doing your stuff.
Yeah.
When you step into that mastery, you are the draw card. You know, it's events work around you. And as you go down further, I'm looking for opportunities to the technical, to the copying, to the at first I suck. It's all a beautiful, you see the people dropping off along the way. If I could go back to Andrew at 25, 20 years ago, if I could go back and tell myself one thing, it would be, you're going to have to be so much better than you even can imagine. Because in my head, or how I felt on stage, I can't even comprehend that anymore. It was this glass ceiling of I didn't even know what was possible. I could see people doing it, but how this feels now, and the artistry behind it, the craft behind it is I couldn't have imagined back then.
Wow, yeah, that's really cool. I want to get into your story. So let's get into your story of how you got into this. You know, let's go in. You mentioned that you were an actor, you mentioned television. I think that there's a lot to learn from people's journeys. And that's one of my favorite things about talking to people is hearing their journeys and along their way. So you mentioned 25 years ago or 20 years ago when you're 25, what were you doing at that time?
You know, I started out in acting. It was not the thing that spun my wheels. Presenting was always the thing that spun my wheels, but no one was teaching presenting literally in New Zealand, which is where I grew up. So I kind of fell into it. I made the bold move. I ended up working in a program called Young Hercules with a young gentleman called Ryan Gosling. I worked. That was actually my first taste of what world class was, which is very early in my career of realizing he was this 19-year-old coming out of the Mickey Mouse Club, grew up in Disneyland with Britney Spears. You know the story of Justin Timberlake, and here he is working alongside me in my first year of acting. And I'm working as his right-hand man, his main henchman. And the disparity, the difference between where I was, he had the best singing coaches, the best acting coaches, the best everything. And me was fresh off the farm, pretty much. And the disparity was just that he was just effortless in everything he did. And I had none of those tools. Now, there's so many moments through my career where I started to really understand what is that gap in here. So I wanted to fill that gap. And I started really hounding TV networks for presenting jobs. And I'm going to give you my At First You Suck story. I'm going to cut it really, really short. For anyone who feels bad about their failure stories, here's a nice one. There was a live music show. This is at the beginning of music TV. So it would have been late 90s as a guess. Music TV in New Zealand. Maybe other countries had it a decade before.
Yeah, we had an early 80s was when MTV started here, but that was kind of the decline of MTV was late 90s, but that's besides the point.
So I hounded this producer, hounded him. I finally got his number and I rang him, and then I got hold of his mobile. He made the mistake of giving that to me, and that was it. So one day he said, "Okay, Andrew, I'm going to give you a live. We're going to put you live TV, but I'm going to co-host you because we're not sure about you yet. So I'm going to put you with a co-host. Your name is Miranda." And Miranda was a lovely person, this redhead, and she was really good at her job. So I went in there and I was practicing everything I was going to say. Now, this is the first mistake, right? How can I practice what I'm going to say when I don't know what my co-presenter is going to ask me or what music videos we're going to be watching? So everything in my head I was taking the acting approach, right? I thought that this was my big break. Everything that I said had to be super poignant, life-changing, or hilarious. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone who doesn't know what they're doing.
Or anyone. Everything has to be hilarious. What like
that was my idea of presenting, that everything I said had to hit the audience. Bang, they're like, "Oh my God, this guy's amazing." So I walk on and sit down. I've got butterflies, of course, and within 20 minutes, everything that Miranda's sending my way, co-presenting's like tennis. You hit the ball to them, make them look good. They hit the ball to you, make you look good. Back and forth. I was just a mess. Everything she asked me, I was coming back with my preconceived ideas of what I was going to say. Didn't even relate.
Yeah.
I was obviously getting embarrassed for myself because I knew I was dying live on TV. And then she started crying. And she started crying because it was her music show and her baby, the show she had created, and I was killing it. So she runs out of the studio mid-recording, live on national TV, and leaves me to anchor the show. So she's cried live on TV. The audience now know that she's crying because I'm really bad, and I'm left there anchoring it. And it was that I've had many of these moments, but that was the moment where please let this end. Please, someone just put me out of my misery, like turn the cameras off, or just the ground swallow me up. Is there an earthquake that can happen right now that we just stopped it?
So she's crying on national TV, live TV. Did she run off the stage?
She ran off out of the studio.
And then what did you say? How did you handle it next?
I didn't. I bumbled my way through it until the next ad break, and then they went for an ad break, and I was done.
You didn't come back after the break?
I was done.
They just unceremoniously hacked from the show?
I was done. And my friends who came to support me and who were watching this had disappeared. I came out of the studio to kind of like get support from them, and they had bolted. They were well gone, having a drink at a pub somewhere. And they didn't mention it. It's 20 years later that I can actually tell the story with a smile on my face. But I've had many of those. And the journey, you ask where the journey, where we come from, is literally from failure. But I started flying around the world because I wanted to understand presenting. That's what I wanted to do. So I started flying around the world. I'd go to LA, I'd go to London, I'd come to Australia all the time to study who I thought and research were the best presenting mentors around. But I never aligned, or I never felt like anyone was really talking about connection, the fundamental of getting out of the technical into a place of pure connection, where it was the energy, where it was your words had more weight. And so I ended up creating literally my own style of presenting, which is what I teach. And that is the thing that gets me up in the morning. So when we talk about the technical and the artistry to infinity, or infinity might be mastery, it is discovering a style of presenting that I didn't see anyone doing. And that's when I realized, holy cow, this is infinite. Where can I take this? Is completely up to how hard I want to work and where I want to go and how deep I want to go into it.
Wow. So tell us about, how do people get that connection? How can someone who wants to have more connection with that audience, what can they do?
I love this question. So what we're talking here about, realistically, we're talking about authenticity, aren't we?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
So authenticity for me is when we are devoid of the masks, and that mask can be you wearing the mask of authenticity, like your intention. I'm going to be authentic today. You've already put the mask of authenticity on, right? Uh-huh. The other mask is normally worn of what is my perception or fantasy of what a presenter looks and sounds like. And so we take that model and we go out on stage and we perform with the mask of presenting. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So far we still have these masks on, which create a barrier between you and your audience. You're not being the true essence of yourself. Sure, you can express yourself, but you're not being the true aligned essence of who you truly are, because you're still wearing the mask. How I liken it to is when you get up in the morning and you look out your window, if you're lucky enough to have a window in your bedroom, if you go and have a cup of coffee, when you brush your teeth, when you walk down the stairs, when I water my plants, I haven't changed who I am fundamentally at all. I'm still who I am. I haven't had to put on a mask because my plants need to see the best side of me, my version of what I think, my perception of fantasy, what is the best version of me. So what people do when they go on stage is they want their audience to like them, which is what we all want, right? We want to be liked, we want to be loved, we want to be invited back.
Yeah.
So authenticity for me is when you are able to go on stage as who you currently are and work from that fundamental energy, moment to moment, and let that go where you will. So when we come in from, I don't want to say a false start, but when we come in a little bit hyped up, or that performer mask is on, you've already got the disconnect going from you and your audience. So I always say this. The first step for me is simply don't change state. If I'm feeling very humbled and introspective and grounded, I will walk on stage in that space. The audience will feel me, see me immediately. They will feel my presence and they will see the essence of who I truly am. If I allow my words and my sentences and my ideas to come from that place, my words will have more weight to them than me trying to make them sound a certain way. Does that make sense, Jake?
Totally. Absolutely.
It's coming from the essence of me. This is when when you're watching someone on stage and they could be talking about Excel spreadsheets, and I've seen this numerous times. When I'm coaching and someone is an outsourcer, or they're talking about Excel spreadsheets, and for some reason everyone's going, I don't know why, but I love listening to you speak.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's a real thing.
What's so engrossing about this person? And the thing is, most of the time they don't even know, but the essence of who they are is showing. The weight of their words, I'm going to get really woo-woo or deep here, but the weight of their words have their vibration attached to them. So they have more weight. They have more weight. The audience can feel it. And for me, that is authenticity. When we don't have to change state. Whenever I do a Facebook Live, I'm the same. However I was feeling off camera is exactly who I start as on camera. And I have my topic, and then I allow how I'm feeling, the color or the shade, how I'm feeling today, color that topic. So that topic will change how I articulate it every single time I do a live. Therefore, I don't have to copy and paste information. I don't have to remember and say the same information each time. You could watch my live on the same topic and I will give you new information, ideas, and sentences every time I speak.
Oh, that's great.
I just spoke a lot there, Jake. Sorry.
No. That's exactly what we want. And I love this approach because I'm not a big fan of a lot of the speaking a lot of the speaking training out there, a lot of the speaker training out there for actual speaking. I'm not a big fan of it because I'm not comfortable with it. And I think a lot of it creates copycats. Pure and simple. A lot of the training is just creating copycats. And my view of speaking, my view of training of speaking has always been more about work on the speaker more than you work on the speech. Yes, we're going to work on the speech. Yes, we're going to be clear on what we're talking about. Yes, we're going to do all of those. But I would rather work on the speaker than work on the speech, because I'm very much the same way, where I'm focused on me being me and me showing up. The best thing that I can do for my presentation is showing up as the best version of me. That's absolutely the best thing that I can do. And I noticed something with you that's different than a lot. In contrast, there's a lot of people who will go on Facebook Live, who will speak on stage, who will whatever, and they do kind of I don't know if they have this same kind of vibe in Australia and New Zealand, but here we have the classic used car commercial. The used car commercial where the guy gets on and says, "Hey everyone, this is Crazy Larry's Car Place, and today we are going to give you the whole place. And if if we don't give you the best deal in the world, then I'm not Crazy Larry," or what, those kind of things. And I see the same things. That's their idea of excitement. That's their idea of what it means to be engaging. And they do this and they get there. And sometimes I get authentically excited, and I am right now as I'm talking about this, but I see this fake excitement. The red light comes on, and then all of a sudden, "Hey everyone, how's it going?" But it's very much the opposite. There's a lot of confidence in not necessarily quiet, but in calmness. There's a lot of confidence in the way that you present, which is calm, which is confident, which is thinking. We had a conversation a couple of weeks back where we talked about pausing, and I noticed you doing that earlier. When wasn't a intentional pause, it was maybe you had to rethink about what you were saying, but rather than saying like and a bunch of filler, you just stopped, and then he said something. Talk a little bit about that.
Great question. I've had this idea of with presenting of time and space a lot lately. It is giving ourselves, I believe we're all tapped into the same thing. I just call that greatness. That's the word I use. We're all tapped into greatness. When we're on stage in the copy and paste mode, which is predominantly most presenters, I'll say most because it really is. It's because that's what most teachers or mentors or coaches are teaching. That's why most presenters are doing it.
Yeah.
Right. That is I learn information. I know my points. I've got my keynote. And this is the part that breaks my heart. You know, speakers believing that their keynote is the first key. Once I've got my keynote, I'm set. But it's not.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know how to present you, the essence of you, you're just another person delivering stories. There's enough stories.
Yep.
I want you. So that time and space is me allowing myself the time. When I go back into my head and I can feel it is dropping back and going in search of the words that are sitting and waiting for me to give them life. They're sitting in time and space. It's the best way I can put it. They're sitting in time and space. They are waiting for me. I can feel them. They're not words, it's a feeling. So it's how do I articulate this feeling around my topic? So some words are strong, they're there. And this is when you start to choose them, you can feel them, you give them life, and they start to go, and that's what people call flow. Mm-hmm. I think it's more sexy to call it becoming a conduit for infinite wisdom, but flow will do.
I like that.
Do you know what? Do you mind if I share my screen for two?
Please do. I apologize to everyone who is listening on podcast form later on, but we'll describe what's going on the screen.
Okay. I'll describe this. So in here you have a picture of a galaxy. In it is a whole lot of words, ideas, and sentences. Some of these words are more fine and further in the background. They're just there waiting. You haven't quite felt them. They're there, but you don't know how to articulate it. These words in the foreground, as you can see by the font, and they're stronger. You can actually see them. You can make them out. These are the ones that the presenter here is now choosing. These are the ones I'm choosing to give life. They're here waiting. These ones here, if I stay silent, if I allow myself the time and space, these will come to me. I think that for a podcast that explains it.
Absolutely.
So that's the best way I can describe it. So if I just keep talking, I end up using words that I don't really need to use, that all they're going to do is dilute my message, and they won't have the weight or my essence, my vibration attached to them. Now, the audience doesn't really know why, but the words, when I choose them and give them life, just connect at a far deeper level. Yes. And the more that you can tap, and this is the great byproduct, the more that you can tap into this place, the more that your ideas are unique and they're fresh, these sentences and words, this is where you start speaking and going, oh my God, did I just say that? What a great idea. And then you can flesh that idea further out. And the more that you flesh these ideas out, that gives you more depth in your knowledge. This is what the more depth in your knowledge and these ideas coming from this place is your leverage. It means that you're at the vanguard of you.
So I've heard you say that before, at the vanguard. What do you mean by that?
When we're not copying and pasting, this is my elevator pitch. I've said it a million times. I'm bored shitless about saying it, but I know it works. When we're just learning information and passing it on, there's no life in that. It's just, it's a business transaction. When we go into this space of time and space, or that getting into flow, we're giving new ideas. We're giving ourselves the best possible opportunity to tap into new ideas and words and sentences waiting for us, right? And if these are waiting for us, no one's ever said these in this order with this feel before. It's completely original to us. So when I think about presenting and how I teach, I know that no one else is teaching what I teach, because this is coming from such a deep, pure place from me, which means I must be playing at the vanguard of me.
That's amazing. I love that. That's fantastic. I want to get a couple tangible pieces of advice for people. If somebody right now is in the, you said most speakers are in the copy and paste phase. How does one go from that copy and paste phase up to the next phase?
I would call that's around step 2, which is dropping head to heart. The biggest thing, the biggest feeling that constricts us on stage or when we're presenting, even doing a Facebook Live, is the fear of silence. It's that fear of silence that we panic and we go straight from in our bodies or our hearts, and we go straight back into our heads. We go back straight into just using our information. This is what I already know. But on stage, my real purpose, where the magic is to give myself the best opportunity to get into flow on stage, so my audience can appreciate new ideas and fresh words being used, because they can feel the difference. So getting out of your head, when you're in your head, and this happens multiple times through a speaking engagement, we're in flow, we're in a nice place, and then we have this moment where it gets uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean? It's like, What was I saying? What was my point? I'm not quite in the zone today as I'd like. Or someone's just fallen asleep in the front row. That's just put me off. And it's that place there where we start to panic and go straight back into our heads. Okay, so to get out of that copy and paste, it is giving ourselves the best opportunity as often as we can to get back into our bodies and our hearts to speak. And even if that is just here now with you, or if this is me doing a live, the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with doing it. And then the third step, I would say, is embody. So now that you've chosen to give these words life, you've chosen them. That's not by any mistake. You've chosen them. You're not speaking at this point because you've lost track and you're just filling up space. You've chosen these words, and now as they come up, you embody them. You own them. So embodying for a presenter is huge. This is when you deliver with certainty. This is what I'm saying. These words I've just given life to. These are my words in this order. I chose them. And when they come out and you own them, there's a depth to you. There's this bone deep sense of belief and certainty. And at the end of the day, your audience is they're watching you for certainty.
Yes.
They're waiting. They're just watching going, does he believe, or does he or she believe themselves?
Yeah, I love the way that you think about this, because it's so different from the way most people talk about presenting, and it's a very holistic way of looking at things. It's you're looking at things from the heart rather than looking at things, like you said, from the technical side. From that side of, you got to say this after this, or you got to look this way, or you got to, when you're going to make this point, that's when you pivot and then turn to the other side of the audience. And I'm just not interested in that stuff at all. And the reason why I'm not interested in it is because I've learned it all. I've done it, and found that when I dropped it, I had so much more connection with individuals.
Yeah, 100%.
And to be honest, when someone sees me speak, what they're going to see is not going to be very different from if we're having a one-on-one conversation. It's really not. It's not going to be all that different.
You're going to, the beautiful thing is when you get in that copy and paste, or in that technical, I'm not actually putting that down, because it's a vital part of the rite of passage, right? We go through it, but it's not, the reward isn't as great, because there's not, and also when you're in that place of mastery, or that business becomes a creative art, when it's like this, you actually get away with more. You can fall over on stage. You can completely forget what you were talking about. You can go off on tangents, because it's so freaking engaging, and you're in that space of you actually have complete freedom to take that audience wherever you want. You get placed in that place of the conductor of an orchestra. When you can accept that responsibility, and you have the tools to accept that responsibility. It's one to accept it, it's one to be able to execute it.
Yes.
It's magic. Like, presenting's magic. For me, it's like the most beautiful experience. When I'm on stage, for me, nothing makes me feel more connected. And I think something that at the moment I'm really understanding and learning is how to have the energy of hold that space of a room. Some presenters are good at it, and some just don't know how to do it. They don't know how to hold the energy, because it can be, again, a sense of responsibility. And when we learn to ride those uncomfortable moments out by being comfortable, there's no jittery moments, or no the energy doesn't get a bit crazy. When we all do this, I'm sure. You're having a blast, and all of a sudden you have this uncomfortable shift when you're on stage, and you're going, how long is this going to last? I'm not in it right now. When am I going to come back? But you always come back. It's learning to ride those moments out.
I like that idea of just going, that's interesting, rather than getting in your head in that moment, freaking out, and just saying, oh, it's okay. One of the things I love about speaking is I feel like speaking is one of the most freeing parts of my job. When I speak, none of this matters. Nothing else matters other than what I'm doing right now. There's so much clarity in my mind. In fact, I think it's one of the times where I think the most clear. I'm the most clear because I have no distractions, because I cannot think about what's going on here on my phone. I
was just thinking that, yes.
I can't go there when I have that audience in front of me. When it's my job to present to these people, I cannot go there. And that is such a freeing experience, and it's beautiful, and I love it.
We all have a lot of creative energy flowing through us, and we all need our outlet, whatever that may be.
Yep.
I think presenting's become such a, public speaking, presenting to camera, doing our lives, it's become such an amazing tool for leverage, to leverage your brand and your business and your personality. Do you know what I mean? It's being able to get, with the more that you get you across, the more that you're likely to attract people in that same space.
Yes.
Yes.
And the great thing that I see is that I see this happening with people with any personality type, not just the extrovert, not just the person who it comes easy for them to communicate. I see this happening with people who are more introverted. I see this happening with people who don't really love the spotlight. I see this happening with those kinds of people. And I want to point that out, because that's a common thing that I hear from people. When I'll hear from a client or someone at a seminar, someone will say something like, well, that's okay that for you to do that, Jake, but I'm me and you're you. I go, no, that's not what it is. This is a self-fulfilling thing. I'm able to get away with making mistakes. I made a big mistake today. Just today, someone pointed out on one of my websites, here's this I missed a whole word. And
I read that.
I'm dyslexic. I didn't see it. And then even when he sent it to me, I had to write back and say, where's the mistake? Like I just didn't see it. And that's just whatever. And I just have to not care about it. But people will say, well, you can get away with that, but I can't. And I go, why not? Of course you can get away with that. It's just allowing yourself to be seen and to be vulnerable. And because I don't have a mask up of perfection, it doesn't hurt my identity when something isn't perfect.
Yeah. Yep. Makes complete sense. I think for me, that I see that the speakers, the presenters that struggle the most are the ones that already believe they're confident. Because I go, how's your presenting? On a 1 to 10, what do you like? I'm an 8. I'm really confident. And I always go, uh-oh, we're in trouble. Because confidence and skill are completely different things. And the confident ones are the ones that just blow through it. And you go and you don't understand your value. You don't know how to connect. I don't know who you are on stage right now. Someone stole your personality. I don't know who this person is. But there's this confidence because they're like, yeah, but I'm confident. You know, but you can be introverted. You can walk up the stairs. You can trip coming onto stage. You can have a dry mouth, and you can say to the audience, "Oh my God, I get so nervous when I speak. I'll find my voice soon." And then you can go over and pick up your water, and your hand can be shaking, and you can make it. You can go, "I know, I told you, I'm so nervous. In fact, I'm going to carry this glass of water with me while I talk." Your audience is already in love with you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're already there. They're like, oh my God, I love this person. And then if you turn around and add value now, you just knock the ball out of the park compared to that person who's, I'm not going to show the audience that I'm nervous. I don't get nervous. Look at me. I'm confident. The audience is like, I don't know. There's something about you, but you're a dick.
It's so funny you say that because it's true. You go, yeah, I don't know what it is, but no, I don't like you.
It's that falseness. It's the, no, you don't got this. But I'd rather see the person falling over themselves and just going, oh my God, I love you. And then if you add value and give me something to walk away with and going, wow, job well done. Job well done.
One time I tripped over a microphone stand in front of an audience of 500 middle school students. And they erupted in laughter, and I made a joke about it, and they laughed more. And then I kept calling back to it throughout the whole thing because I was just playing with them. It was just so funny and fun at the same time. And afterwards, like, it went so well. Like, the whole thing went so well. I hadn't thought about this, but one of the school, I was one of the teachers, or maybe one of the admins. They came up to me and they said, I gotta ask, was that fake? Was that a part of your plan? I was like, no, I didn't fall on purpose. What are you thinking? And they're like, well, you pulled it off so well afterwards, and you laughed about it. You joked about it. I thought maybe you just did this on purpose because it created this moment. And I even thought about it. I thought, well, that'd be funny for me to, I'm not going to, because I could never recreate that authenticity. You made a post about that, about not trying to be authentic. But it's just funny how you can take those things and make it work. So anyway, we got to run because of time, but I'd like to ask you a couple last questions. One of them being, what's your last pieces of advice for the members of the Speakers, Authors, and Coaches Network?
You mean like a closing note?
You take that wherever you'd like to take it.
If you want to, this is a way to install that and to implement. Like if you want something to implement, which I think is always useful, when you do your Facebook Lives over the next week or two, is allow yourself to almost be allow time and space in between your thoughts and what you're saying, and allow yourself to sit in those gaps where there's nothing, because this is actually this is where the connection happens. The silences are more powerful than when you're using words as fillers. Like the connection is still there. As soon as you start using words as fillers, the connection drops and you've got to get it back again. So it's something to implement, and it just as a really simple tool, which makes an incredible difference to your enjoyment, which is what it's all about, right? The more we're enjoying it, the more the audience will.
Yep.
Is giving it presenting the time and space in between those thoughts and ideas and sentences coming up, and allow ourselves to explore an idea from the current space that you're in. So instead of putting on the mask and going, I'm feeling really deep and introspective today, but I don't want my audience to see that, so I'm going to run around the room and get happy. You were given that space for a reason today. And if you come from that place and start from there, how you articulate it is going to be completely different than how you articulate it tomorrow. And that's the magic.
That's a great way to end this. That's fantastic. I love that. How can people get connected with you? How can they learn more from you?
Do you know, I have a presenting group called The Heart of Presenting. And for tours and retreats, in fact, I'm coming to the States next year. My website is andreweggleton.com.
Great.
But yeah, my office is The Heart of Presenting group.
Awesome. We're going to put a link in the comments here and also a link in the show notes so people can become a part of your group. I definitely recommend going and being a part of it. He gives a lot of great tools. If you enjoyed this, which I think if you didn't enjoy this, you don't have a heart, because this was incredible. Loved listening to it. And if nothing else, we heard an incredible accent all day. So that was awesome. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Really enjoyed this. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys later.
Thanks, Chad.
You're welcome.